This is PIX on Politics Daily with Dan Mannarino.
Hey everybody, welcome to PIX on Politics Daily. I'm Dan Mannarino. June 25th. Okay, what a night it was. All right, just to give you a little lay of the land. We had a full show planned from 10:30 to 11 with the results as they were coming in. That script got tossed out the window because nobody expected what played out. And that was that Zohran Mamdani would capture the lead early in round one, to the point that at 10:25, 5 minutes before we went on the air for our live show, out comes former Governor Andrew Cuomo and concedes. And that's before the ranked choice voting actually played out. Because many people thought that the race was going to be Cuomo in round one, ranked choice would play out, and then we would see where those votes went from the other candidates, how ranked choice actually goes, right? Didn't happen, because his lead was insurmountable to the Andrew Cuomo campaign, that even though Mamdani officially didn't get the 50% just yet because of the ranked choice, he declared victory and Andrew Cuomo conceded. So he is going to be likely the Democratic nominee to face off in a general election. Now it's going to be very interesting against Mayor Eric Adams, who is now running on the independent line, Republican Curtis Sliwa, and independent Jim Walden. And then there's this whole other idea that Andrew Cuomo, who told me 2 weeks ago that if he lost, he would be on the ballot in November on his own independent line. He's weighing those options right now. We'll talk about that later with JC Polanco. But it's very interesting what this is all shaping up to be. But I want to talk about the other races. They were very important races, right? We have Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. He won last night handily. And then there were the two debates you watched here on PIX 11 for public advocate between Jumaane Williams, who was the incumbent, and Assemblywoman Jennifer Rajkumar. Jumaane Williams easily winning re-election with double-digit numbers. And then Mark Levine, the Manhattan Borough president, winning the comptroller's race against the finance chair of the city council, and that was Justin Brannan. So that was a big race that we had here, those debates on PIX 11. Some borough presidents that were up for re-election as well. Vanessa Gibson in the Bronx, she won. She was the incumbent. She won re-election. Antonio Reynoso in Brooklyn. But the Manhattan Borough's race, you have a new Manhattan Borough president, because they were two newcomers, Brad Hoylman-Siegel and Keith Powers, facing off against each other, and Brad captured the Manhattan Borough president's race. So that's a roundup of some of those local races, which were all very, very interesting. And then the city council were up for grabs as well. One key important note about the city council race: Anthony Weiner, former congressman who obviously resigned in scandal, was running to have a comeback in the city council and lost his bid for his comeback story in the city council race. So Anthony Weiner is out. So that is that on the local races front. When we come back, everybody, I'm going to talk one-on-one with JC Polanco, and we're going to talk all about the race for mayor and what kind of transpired and played out. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, and there's so much to talk about. So I brought in one of my favorite people to talk politics with, JC Polanco, professor at University of Mount St. Vincent. And this was one heck of a night. I liked how you described this. I saw your social media. You said this was an earthquake in the political world. Describe what you mean by that going into this, especially if you're Cuomo.
This is a political earthquake like I've never seen before. You know, if you're former Governor Andrew Cuomo, you have 3 terms as governor of New York, attorney general, secretary of HUD. You have a long history, and you're part of a dynasty, and you're running in New York City. You're a Queens guy, and you're running against a 33-year-old guy who was nowhere on the map just a few months ago, who wasn't a leader in the legislature, not a committee leader, not part of leadership, and takes New York City by storm, and in a matter of a couple of months defeats you in what was going to be a overwhelming victory that everyone thought you were ahead in the polls. I think the country is shocked by the victory yesterday and what it means for the Democratic Party here in New York City and for the country.
So let me break that down to a number of things. Okay, first off, Mamdani begins with 1%.
Yep.
Jumps up now to where he is now. 1%.
Yep.
Okay. If you're Andrew Cuomo, you come in with heavy name recognition. You and I have talked about this. He's in the 30s, but he never garnered more than that. So what did that say about his campaign along the way, that he wasn't bringing in new people? He just kind of maintained. If you were voting for Andrew Cuomo, you were voting for him the whole way through.
The whole way through, because he had name recognition. He was popular. A lot of people in the city remember him from the COVID days. They loved him. But Andrew Cuomo was running a 90s, early 2000s campaign.
Right. Okay, as many of them were.
You know
a lot
what?
of the other candidates.
Yeah, the other candidates were unable to gain any steam ahead of time. There was something special about Assemblyman Mamdani's campaign from the very beginning. We're talking about the excitement that he brought new voters into the party. Look, 25% of yesterday's voters were new voters. That's a huge deal. Those were all Mamdani voters. And not only was he young, he's actually one of them. He's 33 years old. And he was very, very good with social media. It was plastered. I mean, every time I opened up my phone, there was a social media hit. I look on the TV, there he is, Zohran Mamdani talking about free buses, freeze the rent, raise taxes on the rich. Those were the three things. Those were the three messages he came up with. And young people in New York City wanted to see one of their own run. They find the city incredibly unaffordable.
Okay.
And he resonated with them, and they couldn't care less about his lack of experience.
Right. Well, okay, so let me go to the lack of experience for a second before I get to the other question. Because folks this morning are saying that there was a lack of experience, right? And that he wasn't in politics, but he was. He was an assembly member. I know he's young. But what does it say about the establishment, right? Because this is the second time now. Who was the first person to win the presidency with zero political experience? Donald Trump.
Yes, Donald Trump. Right, Donald Trump, I've heard that a lot. But Donald Trump was different because Donald Trump was a known entity internationally. He ran the Trump Organization. The man has buildings all over the world named after him. And in New York City alone, you could just look to your right, to your left, there was Trump everywhere. And he had a long-running TV show, not to make light of the TV show, but he ran an organization.
But the point of the question is about establishment, right? Donald Trump wins, and it was kind of a blow to the Republican establishment.
That's true.
Zohran Mamdani wins now, and what does it say about the Democratic Party? Because the Democratic Party has been facing this change of tide that they've kind of been holding on to, saying we don't want it yet. What does that say for campaigns moving forward?
Well, it depends. Look, nationally, Dan, I continue to believe that you cannot win the majority without winning purple swing districts and purple states. If the Democrats ever want to see a Speaker Jeffries, they have to continue winning purple districts and purple states. A socialist message doesn't win purple districts and purple states. So nationally, we saw with Mickey Sherrill's campaign in New Jersey. We saw Spanberger's campaign as well. You see Democrats in those purple states recognize the importance of voting for centrist, moderate Democrats that can appeal to Republican Trump voters. New York City is a different monster because New York City, you don't really have that issue. New York City primary voters yesterday weren't thinking, we have to elect someone that appeals to independents. They weren't thinking that.
No, they were thinking we wanted to not have Cuomo.
we don't. A lot of them were thinking we don't want Cuomo and we want something new. We want something different. We want fresh change. And that $1 billion smile, I go back to that, and I mentioned it this morning. I thought I had a great smile, Dan. I thought I did. This guy has a $1 billion smile, captivates. He's, one of former Governor Cuomo's consultants tweeted a little earlier. Neil Quatra says it was that incredible charisma, that ability to connect, that ability to connect with the human. Intelligence that he was able to connect with folks as to how they felt was like no other. And I think that's what Zohran Mamdani brought to the table. He was able to connect. He was able to walk from Inwood all the way to Battery Park City. He was in every borough. He had 100,000 people out there campaigning for him. And the old Democrats were focusing on union endorsements, elected official endorsements, the old style of campaigning. That stuff is dead.
The endorsements, the super PACs, the checks.
That's over.
And a lot of folks who were in some of those unions don't even live in New York City, but that's a different point. I want to talk about moving forward now, what Zohran Mamdani has to do to win a general. Because like you said, it's a different electorate.
Yep.
Folks like independents like yourself can now have a voice in a general, right? So what does he have to do moving forward? Governor Hochul, who said she would not raise taxes, which is what he says will pay for his plans, said she called him last night, congratulated him, said she's looking forward to working together. But what does the campaign look like moving forward now that you're against Eric Adams, Curtis Lee with Jim Walden, and potentially Andrew Cuomo? Yeah,
I can see Zohran Mamdani start becoming more of a moderate on issues. I do. He's going to become more likable. The press is going to see him as the heir apparent, as the future mayor. He's going to be much embraced by mainstream Democrats. We already saw it with Governor Hochul. Governor Cuomo was very gracious last night in his concession speech. You're going to see Democrats start falling in line. You're going to see more and more national press for Zohran Mamdani. And it's going to be very difficult for Mayor Adams and the Republican Curtis Lee to break in. It's not impossible, but it's going to be difficult because the numbers are so overwhelmingly registered Democrats going in. But one thing your viewers should remember, You don't need a majority of the votes to win in November. You need a plurality.
Meaning you don't have to get to 50%.
No, you could win with 20% plus one. Right. But this is also interesting. About 5 to 6% of all New York City registered voters voted yesterday. So you have a lot of registered voters that haven't come out yet, right? So, I mean, it's...
just typical for a primary. This actually outperformed the last primary.
It did. It outperformed the last primary, but that's all he was able to garner yesterday. About 5 to 6% of registered voters. So remember that you're right. In November, you're going to have Republicans, you're going to have independents all have a say. The issue isn't going to be what Assemblyman Mamdani is going to do to win, because with the numbers, most people are going to view him as a shoo-in. What is Eric Adams and Curtis Lewa going to do? And perhaps Cuomo, what are they going to do to break into that? Are they going to form an allegiance? What is Eric Adams going to do in the next several months being an incumbent mayor? It's priceless to have the power of incumbency as New York City mayor, to do all the things that he wants to do from here to November, to be able to break into that into that number of votes that Mamdani has. So this is going to be tough. It's going to be a tough several months left for whoever is running in November. One more thing I want to say. The last time we had an independent mayor to run in November as an independent was Michael Bloomberg. Michael Bloomberg had hundreds of millions of dollars at his disposal, self-funded, to be able to win. But Michael Bloomberg knew that it was impossible to win the mayoralty, even as an incumbent, without a major party line. So he had to go out there and ask the Republicans to support him, even after leaving the Republican Party. He was able to get their support and win re-election. But he won re-election with hundreds of millions of dollars as an independent with a major party line. So the question becomes, what is Eric Adams and what is Curtis Lewa going to do? Do they think they have a shot by running in their own lane as the law and order anti-Semitism candidate versus a popular assemblyman who has just gained a lot of attention and has grabbed national headlines? He was just on national late night shows just right before the primary. That's gold.
Let me ask you this last question, and it's about polling, because the Cuomo campaign said our poll, which had Mamdani winning in the final round, was an outlier, wasn't credible, and that their poll had him up double digits. Now, nobody's poll had Mamdani winning in the first round. But what does it say about polls overall, kind of, when you look at this now? Nobody had it.
This is crazy. The polls are all off. Your poll, I got to be honest with you, you had 77% college graduates sampled in that poll. That's why so many people were saying, of course it's going to show Mamdani is up, because he has more of the college graduates. So that's why some of the questions I heard about your poll, but I was looking at a litany of polls, and all of them had Andrew Cuomo winning in the ranked choice. None of them had this.
In ranked choice and in the first round. People are going to study. You're going to be teaching. This campaign is going to be one that future campaigns look at and say, we need to mimic this model.
Congratulations, though, to Assemblyman Mamdani.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure.
Big.
Great to have you, as always. You're
Thanks for
great
having
to
me.
have.
Thanks for having me.
And we're going to have a full recap, by the way, on Friday on PIX on Politics, 6:30 p.m. So tune into that. In the meantime, everybody, you can check all the results on our website, pix11.com, because there's other races to pay attention to as well, public advocate, comptroller. We'll see you back here tomorrow.